Got conflict? Who doesn't at times? Managing through it can be a struggle. So if you need a few tips and tools on how to handle the heat and get your team back on track, you've come to the right place. Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Cawley from the Delean Institute for Growth and Wellness, and our conversation this month is all about conflict resolution, some strategies around that, and negotiation tactics. So let's get started. Conflict. It's common. Anytime you get a few human beings together, you're bound to have conflict. Well, people have different perspectives and opinions and viewpoints and belief systems. So all of that can lead to a struggle and issues at times where people don't agree. And so your job as a manager and a leader in the workplace is to de-escalate the emotions that come with conflict, usually fear, stress, anxiety, and anger, and try to help the parties who are at conflict find a solution that's agreeable to both of them. Because conflict resolution is all about process. It's going through the process of getting those parties together to find some type of shared understanding and find a way to problem solve in a collaborative way or to compromise in order to get to that better solution. It's really much better for the workplace as well, because when conflict festers and it's around for a while, your team have decreased morale and just not be as efficient or as productive or as happy as they could be. So let's talk a little bit about what kinds of different conflict are there. According to a Harvard Business article that was recently put out, and that's a great resource if you haven't looked at it before, what they find is that having a conflict with one of your employees or a subordinate of some type, someone who is responsible to you for some type of outcome or performance, is pretty common, about 20 to 25% of what you see in the workplace as far as conflict. Another kind of conflict, which is pretty common, is when you have two parties, two individuals who just don't see eye to eye. That type of conflict happens about 35% of the time, the most common kind. And then you can have two groups of people who don't agree. It could be from two different departments. It could be within one department, two different types of committees that are working on different types of things that then have some conflict and need to have a resolution that you manage successfully. And that happens about 20 to 25% of the time. The least common is what they call, basically everyone can't get along. So if your entire department is not getting along and there's conflict amongst everybody, that happens only about 15% of the time, but it can be a struggle to manage through that one for sure. Now, where does conflict arise from? Well, we talked that when people get together, they have different opinions and viewpoints. There are cultural differences between people, and that's more and more apparent as we're in a global economy and so many companies are multinational. And the other one that can come up are values. So where your values differ from another person can lead to some strife and conflict over time. One of the most common causes is resource constraints. Now, if there's a limited amount of resource, everybody wants it, right? So it's all about who gets what, how much, and when, because everyone wants their project or their capital request or their work supported, and there's only limited resources at home and at work, and you have to manage through that. Another common one is miscommunication, especially with emails, right? So you can look at a text and an email, and based on your emotional state, how your day is going, how you read and interpret the message, may get a very different sense or interpretation from the person who sent that email or text to you. Much better to get on the phone or be face-to-face in order to clear up any misunderstanding. But it's pretty common, right? Where people will look at an email and get outraged or upset or misconstrue it or misunderstand it in some way. So communication gaps can definitely add to the mix of why people come into conflict. What are a few tips and tricks for you as a manager and a leader to be able to handle the conversation and manage through it a little bit better? Well, a couple of really basic things, right? But you sometimes forget that when you're in the heat of the moment. First, you want to make sure that you are leading the whole process yourself. You're not allowing emotions to lead either other people's or your emotions. So you really want to make sure that you're taking stock of the situation, identifying the issue early, and leading through that versus allowing your emotions to lead you or others. The next thing you want to do is be cool, calm, and collected. Sounds easy, but not always when you're dealing with an employee who is in conflict with you, or you're dealing with a couple of people in the office that are just creating a lot of commotion and strife amongst everybody else in the office place or the workplace. You need to keep cool and calm and collected because as a leader and a manager, everyone is watching you. So you set the tone. If you're staying cool and calm, everybody else will tend to be settled as well. So remember, people are watching. You got to set the tone. Next, it's all about active listening or just good communication skills in general. With good communication skills, you start with active listening. And that means good eye contact, keeping your body language open, listening attentively so that the other person is feeling heard, and then that their emotions, their viewpoint, their perspective is being validated by repeating back what you heard so that they can clarify it, agree to it, or clean up any other misunderstandings or miscommunication that may have happened while you were listening to their point of view. The other thing is making sure that everyone is participating. So you got to get all the viewpoints on the table. Sometimes people want to stand up and start feeling like they're on a soapbox and yell and scream for their viewpoint, their belief, their desire, and they're not always willing to listen to the other person. So it's your job as a manager and leader to make sure that you're navigating that with strong communication skills and active listening. And along with that is emotional intelligence. You need to be able to identify what you're feeling and manage it, but you also have to be able to identify what others are feeling, what you might be sensing about them, how the conversation may be going, because people may speak their viewpoint or their point of perspective, and sometimes they won't. Or they'll say one thing, but their body language is definitely not in agreement with what's coming out of their mouth. So you want to make sure that you can read the room and be able to manage it as needed to de-escalate those emotions and to work through that whole process of getting to a solution that is mutually agreeable. I hope that you found this helpful. And for more essentials on leadership, just go to our website, DeleanInstitute.com for more, and we'll be back with another video soon. Have a great day.